Now, a little bit of background for me. I've been in horticulture all my life, done some research, and I'm 6th generation gardener. Now, not in straight succession. That's quite a lot of working back to get to. So whether I like it or not, it's in my genes. Whether I'd like to be a computer programmer or not, I can't help being a gardener, because that's what I am. Okay? Now, lots of other things as well. And I started off studying with Don Hoyle, and I can remember travelling up on Sundays to the BBC garden in Plymouth and working with him and my brother up there. And then I've been a contractor doing tree surgery and landscaping, and I went to work for Carrick Council and did the roundabouts, the Queen Mary Gardens in Falmouth. I hope you've been to Queen Mary Gardens. Mm-hmm. Good. Okay. So I've done lots of work to influence Falmouth. When I was at the council, most people did what they had to do. I tried to do what I had to do, but I then made a point of doing all the bits I wanted to do, which is why I took the job in the first place. Okay? That's why Falmouth looks better than the average town around it. Okay? That's just me. Now, it's not that I'm good, it's that I made a point to make a difference. Okay? Now, started to be a herbalist about 1992, and then an iridologist. Now, everybody knows what an iridologist is?
No, I don't know.
Study of the iris of the eye. Okay. Now, you've heard of reflexology. And if you go to the reflexologist, they'll tell you that all the nerve endings in the body, for your brain and your liver and your heart and things, go to your feet. Okay? And I'm sure they do. But they also go to the back of the iris of the eye. So when you look into someone's eye, it's great when you're an iridologist and you're in a bar. Good looking girls around, as I can see there are tonight. You can notice that if you look into people's eyes near you, everyone's eyes are slightly different. So your eye print is unique to you, which is why they do in some places, I think, use it as a kind of identification. Yes. So what's that information telling you? That's telling you what your genetic predisposition to your health is. It's what you've been given by your parents and your grandparents, your great-grandparents, and parts of your family you'll never have met, maybe generations back. Now, the good news is that everything in your eye doesn't always come true, because it might skip a generation or 2 or 3, but the information is there. And sometimes it does come true, and it might not happen in your life until you're 30 or 40 or 50 or 60, 70 or 80 or 90. So just because you've got information in your eye doesn't mean it's current. There is information in your eye which tells me about when you may have had traumas in your life, at a certain year in your life, and they're significant. They're significant parts of your emotional experience. Whether we like it or not, we're emotional people, we're physical people, we're spiritual people, and mental people, in the nicest term of phrase. Okay, so when I treat somebody, I would treat, or look to treat, in all those ways, looking at someone holistically. Okay, I do treat people sometimes with symptoms, but usually that's part of a bigger issue. So I do practice. I try and practice once a fortnight, if not once a week, as an iridologist and herbalist, and that's at the Morner Smith Chiropractic Clinic. Tuesday. Later on in the month I'm going out to Bournemouth, where there'll be a whole host of people there that someone's booked in for me to see. So that's a favourite week. And they get the full hour. Don't and 3 minutes. Okay. So a little bit about herbal medicine. Who goes to their GP? Who's never been to their GP? Okay. So, most of you have been to your GP. About 105, 108 years ago, if you'd gone to your GP, he would have been a herbalist or a homeopath. Okay. He wouldn't have known on a big scale what a pharmaceutical drug was. Now, they had been around for many years, but they hadn't been developed. And it wasn't until Mr. Carnegie of New York, Carnegie Hall fame, he was approached by some chemists who said, would you like to make some money? He said, that's what I do. And they said, well, we think we can find the active ingredients for these herbs that the doctors are using and make a particular kind of drug so that the doctors can then prescribe the drug, but we'll have the patent on it, so we'll make that money. So he said, right. So he sent them off for some money and they made the first pharmaceutical drugs. They presented the drugs to the doctors who said, we're quite happy with our herbs or homeopathy, so we don't need them. So at that point, he then created the first new phase of medical schools and then taught the new doctors about the new pharmaceutical drugs. So that's where it started from. The interesting thing is, right through his life, till the day he died, if ever he had an illness, he always went to consult his own doctor, who was a homeopath, because he didn't believe in pharmaceutical drugs. It was a financial benefit to him, but nothing else. Okay? So it just depends how you look at it. Okay? Difference between herbs and homeopathy. That's usually the most common question, so if I get that out of the way now, then you won't be sitting there thinking, I've got to remind him at the end what's the difference. Herbs are when you're actually using the plant's natural chemical constituents within it. Homeopathy is when you're using what they call the vibrational essence element of a plant. And they'll take the herb and they'll dilute that into some water, and then they'll take a drop of that and dilute that into some more water. And against all probability, the more you dilute it, the stronger it seems to get. Now, don't ask me to tell you how it works, because I don't. That's just principle. Now, I have used homeopathy on myself before I became a herbalist, and I can say it does work. It does, for me, it did everything that was on the bottle. But I can't tell you how it works. Now, it wasn't a route for me because I'm a gardener. Right? And I have gardeners in the past, in the 1800s, who are related to me, who would have liked to have done more with herbalism. But in that time, you could be accused of being a witch. So you couldn't say too much in those days. Now, I still get accused of being a witch by one of my best mates. He calls me a witch doctor. That's our little bumper. But it's how you look at it. Okay? It's how you look at it. It's what's for you. So, what constitutes to be a herb? I'd like you to tell me what you think a herb is. Any offers?
An edible plant.
Edible plant, right? Anybody else? Don't be shy.
Well, they usually have a particular flavour or smell in the taste.
Okay. So most of them are renowned to be a stronger sense or odour or taste about them. Okay. So that's a recognition of the chemical constituents that that particular herb has. Now they don't all have that. For instance, Philostachus nigra boreana, for the bamboo lovers, that's the black bamboo. Doesn't really have a smell to it. But in its native country, they use that as a herb. They take bark off and they use it to help cool you down, cool the body down if it's got a fever. Okay. So when I say to what's a herb to most people, they think of rosemary, fishes, thyme, and those sort of things, which you would normally find in the garden, sage. Many of them aren't native to this country. But we think we are, like the rosemary, no, thyme, no. They come from Mediterranean climates. Now when you look at rosemary, you'll see she has very fine needles, leaves. You might not have looked from this perspective before. If I give you a piece of that.
I know it very well.
Yeah.
And
pass it along, but I want you to look at the leaf.
Yeah.
That's the leaf. Okay. Look at it like you've never looked at rosemary before. And you notice how very little of it